It has emerged that government has signed a contract for expansion of the digital terrestrial television system with Chinese company StarTimes. This was made known by Member of Parliament's Communications Committee, Sam Jatta George, on the Super Morning Show today. He was reading from a letter purportedly written to the Attorney General by Communications Minister Esla Owusu-Ekufo. Sam George pointed out that Cabinet has already approved the deal, contrary to what government said earlier.
The Deputy Minister has told you that they are still waiting for Cabinet approval. This letter says that on the 8th of March 2018, the ministry secured Cabinet approval for the commencement of the DTT expansion project to be executed by StarTimes. So there is Cabinet approval for StarTimes to commence an expansion project per this letter. 3. On 16th March 2018, the ministry secured the EPA permit for the DTT expansion project. Again, showing that the government is securing all the necessary permits for StarTimes to continue with this. The Deputy Minister has said on this platform repeatedly that there is no contract, that they are still waiting for Cabinet and parliamentary approval. This is showing you that that is not the case.
You'll come in as soon as he's done. As soon as he's done.
4. On 29th March 2018, the ministry signed a settlement agreement with StarTimes to discontinue the arbitration process at the ICC. Now, this is what will blow your mind. 5. On 5th April 2018, the Ministry of Communications signed a contract with StarTimes to reinstate the original contract signed on 11th April 2018 with an amended scope.
Sam,
the Ministry
of
Communication, I'll show it to you. The Ministry of Communication has signed a contract with StarTimes, and this letter is signed by no meaner person than Mrs. Esla Owusu-Ekufo, MP, the Minister for Communications.
I would have to see the letter
the Ministry of Communications
that it
letter.
says.
Sam George there. Speaking on the same show, the Deputy Communications Minister, George Anda, said a signed contract would still be null without a loan agreement with the China Exim Bank.
Let us not get too excited, okay, and worried about the situation. We'll have the stakeholder engagements, and everybody will be brought up to speed, and it to be a decision that will be in the best interest of Ghana, a decision that will deliver value for money to Ghana. Okay, we will be able to repay the loan of this entire operation, and it will not be, or it will not bring any financial burden to the good people of Ghana. And again, I want to re-emphasize that it will be dependent on having the right levels of approval, okay, being secured, having the right levels of stakeholder engagements, and StarTimes, if that is what is going to happen, will only be a contractor in executing the DTT network expansion. The operation of the network will remain within the remit of the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, which has been registered, is yet to be operationalized. Okay, and that is what it is. I just wanted to.
Deputy Communications Minister George Anda there. Developer of Ghana's digital television platform, KNET, is insisting it has the capacity to execute the contract the government intends to hand to the Chinese TV operator StarTimes. Officials of KNET say the system they built made room for possible expansion to accommodate more channels on the platform. The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GIBA, and other individuals as well as organizations have earlier raised red flags of the government's move, saying it will grant control of broadcasting space to a foreign entity. In the meantime, host of the Super Morning Show, Daniel Dazi, was granted a rare access to the digital terrestrial television control room. Take a look at this and his interaction with an official of KNET, who's Oscar Ncho.
So we need to be able to see how we are faring to assess the performance of the network as it operates. So we have monitors for the various elements, the output of the head end itself, the contributions coming from the broadcasters, how we have them, and then what goes out. Apart from that, even the link network that brings the content, and that also sends the distribution to the remote sites. We should be able to see what is happening at the remote sites. So when we go to the monitoring room, you'll see that bit of it. So the very functional units here are 3. This multiplexing. Then we have conditional access, which I'm sure you will know the importance. There are occasions when we need to protect the feed. As you will know, we are using satellite for distribution. And satellite, the footprint will be in maybe the whole of West Africa. FIFA will say that we don't want this feed we are giving Ghana to go outside the territory of Ghana. So what do? It means that you have to encrypt so that you be able to decrypt at your transmitting sites and then transmit to your people. So we have that.
With the conditional access room, it hides the information from places you don't want it to go.
That's right. You will need to have, if it is a smart card, you will need to have that. You have to have a certain decoder to be able to decrypt, and it helps. In digital, it is more acute to offend rights, content rights than in analog. So we are expecting a lot of this as we begin to do the business.
So let's do a summary of what you've shown us, so that, because you were sounding a bit technical during the demonstration. Here in the multiplex machine, you were mentioning that each of these 5 devices here houses 8 channels like JoyNews on TV.
Yes.
Okay. And this is an extra channel. It is an extra device that can also have 8 channels in there.
That also has.
Good. So that means that here we have 48 channels.
That's true. But we are using 5 in the main and the 1 to back up.
Where is the capacity for this to expand, to take more channels?
You can see that there are more spaces that are blank. So we only have to introduce more encoders, more of these. If we introduce 1 more, as you said, that means we can have another 8 channels. We introduce another, so we can expand. We have left those spaces for that reason. The expansion is there because there's a rack space for that. You don't need so much more to do this kind of expansion.
So as many spaces as we can see here, that means that they can take another encoder, which is the device that houses the channels.
That's right. That's right.
Great. You were also mentioning that some of these channels transmit nationally and some transmit regionally.
Yeah, that's true.
Good. And all of these are within the encoders.
Yes.
Can you shed more light on that?
Yeah. In digital, it's just like operating or manipulating figures. You can process them together, but at the output end we have what we call gateways, and you can use the gateways to assign which channel is for a region and which channel is for national. So that is what we have done.
Out of these 40 channels, how many of them have been assigned to specific regions?
Greater Accra, we have 2. Ashanti, we have 2. We have space for Northern, they are not ready. We have space for Volta, they are not ready. And the Central region, we have 2 also coming from there.
So we have 2 in Greater Accra, 2 in Ashanti, 2 in Central region, space for Northern and space for Volta. Yes. So you have told me about 10. So that will be 30 national channels and 10 regional channels.
Yes.
With this,
as I told you earlier, we are, in order to see, there's flexibility. So we are providing 21 channels per MOX. So we will do 42 instead of 40, just to help.
When you say flexibility and 21 per MOX, what do you mean?
In digital transmission, the bit rate that you create depends on a certain selection of certain parameters. And we have gone in for moderate settings, which will give us something around, let's say, 36 megabits per second. If that is the case, so when you assign 2 megabits per second to a channel and you have 36, you will get about 18, isn't it? So if you want to have 21, then you will look for settings that will give you 42 megabits per second if you are going to be operating with 2 for each channel. If you have 36, you still can get 20 or 21. If you assign, let's say, 1.8 megabits per second per.
Will that not reduce the quality of the transmission?
No. If it's reduced, it will be seen. Yeah, 1.8 works.
So, for instance, if I have a bowl of food and I have bananas and I want to feed 10 people, I can feed them one banana each. But if I want to feed 20 people, the 10 will have to share a banana each. So each person will eat half a banana.
No, not really. Not really. You have to, like I said, in digital, it's not exactly like the analogy you have given, because you are able to create an increase in the bandwidth, in the the bit rate. You can have as much as 40 megabits per second. You can have 30, and you can have something in between. So you choose what you want to create for sharing, so that you don't give, like in the analogy, half.
So you just buy more bananas.
That's the ideal thing. Okay. The ideal thing is the expansion. Okay. But you still can also adequately get enough bits for each channel by looking at your settings, your pairing of parameters.
You've explained that we have redundancy, we've explained that we have regional channels, we've explained that there is space to expand. Yeah. Let me ask, if Star Times were to come in now, what expansion work would they do? Would they be working in this room?
Certainly. I don't know. I do not want to talk so much about this because I don't know the scope of their program. But if there is any expansion in the network that will happen, certainly there are two ways in which it will happen in this room. Some of these blank spaces can be used if the expansion is just a minimal expansion. But if you want to introduce so many channels, then it means you have to bring in an additional rack like this. Okay. So it's possible. Okay.
Let's go to the monitor.
One of the very important securities is to have encryption capability. Because for all you know, there will be a lot of contentions about somebody flouting on content right here and there. And sometimes when we have international games, it's so important to protect the feed so that it is within our territory. So these ones are provided. One other thing that it could do for the network is like, you see, we are doing linear broadcasting. It will get to a point where people have premium content and they just want to behave like a cinema. So you will sell only the content, and therefore you need to do pay-per-view. That one, just for that program. And so people will begin to appreciate the usefulness of this system. So that is what the consumers are seeing. And if there's anything, we will see the reports here. The dynamics are shown here. So sometimes you see something that even the eye would not see, the analyzer is able to tell us. Then we are able to see how our core network is doing. It's refreshing. So, you see, these are all our transmitting sites. Ajankote, Tema, Obuasi, Gambaga, everywhere. And so once they are on air, we see them.
The green dot implies that everything is okay. If there is a problem, the green will change to a red. Then our technical staff would poll the systems and then will determine whether it requires a field trip or not. Yeah.
These are also the channels coming from the broadcasters. Oh, okay. You may have had contribution feeds or contribution links. We give links to broadcasters to be able to carry their content to this place. And so we are looking at them too. Sometimes if it's down, it could be that the link is down. It could be that they have a problem at their end. Yes. So
this is an IP network. Yeah. Even though we are dealing with digital video broadcast, we also have some IP components that we use to bring in the feed.
And by IP, what do you mean?
Internet packets. In fact, IP generally means Internet Protocol. So we use the Internet Protocol to transport the streams from the studios to this location. Yes, it's easier to carry IP traffic over most of the transmission mediums that we have. If it were DVB are very heavy packets. Yeah, very heavy, and you may need very expensive gear to be able to carry them. We convert them into IP, and they become very easy to transport to their location. Yeah.
So that's Daniel Dazi when he got access to the KNET facility. Basically, the point they're making is that, look, we have it, we can do it. Joining me in the studio is the Executive Secretary of GIBA, Gloria Heaji. She'll help us discuss this issue a bit further. And she's been doing this since yesterday, so I believe that by now you've gathered a lot more information for us. You're welcome, Gloria. Gloria, let's start from what we're seeing at KNET. I was just watching it, and I understand the English, but I don't understand the English. Is it possible for you to break it down, the proof that KNET is trying to give everybody that they can do it? Can you break it down to the very regular person's understanding?
Okay, so good afternoon. KNET talked about the infrastructure and expansion of the infrastructure. The infrastructure as it stands now, per the KNET official, he's saying that the infrastructure can hold regional TV stations, aside the TV stations that go nationally, that everybody can see them all over Ghana, from north to south, east to west.
Like JoyNews?
Yes. It also has the capacity to be just, the TV station will be just centered in one region.
Limited to one region?
Yes, okay. Limited to one region, so that it can broadcast in the language it prefers, or maybe the language that's dominant in that region. Okay. So he talked about certain regions that have, and the Greater Accra, I know we have Obonu TV that broadcasts in Gadangbe, and then there's OTV. Then in the Ashanti region, I know of RTV, sometimes called Royal TV. So those are the regional aspects. So it also has the capacity whereby probably a TV station wants to operate in more than one region, but not necessarily the entire country. The facility, the infrastructure can do that as well.
Okay. So that is infrastructure that they have.
Yes.
Okay. Wrap up on that point for me, and then let me bring in my second question.
Well, basically that's about it.
Okay.
The next thing he talked about was the copyright issues, encrypting signals and stuff. You know, content belongs to someone.
Okay.
And a user needs to pay for it.
Okay.
Okay. So anyone using content without acquiring the proper rights to use that brings in copyright issues or stuff like so. Content needs to be copyrighted to protect it.
Okay.
And he said the facility could do that as well.
Okay.
Then, following from the copyright issues, he talked about premium content. That is what the pay TV operators offer. So they have the free-to-air channels.
And they have channels that you can subscribe.
Yes, those are the premium ones. So it's at the consumer is at liberty to choose whether to watch those, pay for those.
For choice. Okay.
Then,
and then the last one?
The last one has to do with, I think that's about it on that topic.
Confuse us.
Yes.
That confuses us the most. So these are to say they have varieties, or they have different platforms, different ways of delivering different services. Is that correct? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
not necessarily. It's just that the infrastructure has. Okay, yes, maybe.
So
maybe
the
we can put it
infrastructure
that
has
way.
several
all
other
those abilities.
Functions.
Yes, functions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is KNET. By the way, we're yet to get to speak to Star Times for their own version of the stories that's been going on so far. But Gloria, if you've been monitoring the news space this morning, the Deputy Communications Minister has been speaking. So has the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, who also has produced some documents to prove that this deal or contract has actually been signed. Now, let me just put in this background, the bit about providing television platforms for regions. That is one of the things, so that's the contracts that Star Times is going to get to provide about 300 villages with the television platform, right? And that's what KNET says they can do. It's emerging to us this afternoon, this morning, when they came on the Super Morning Show, that the deal or the contract has actually already been signed. Is this something you are aware of?
We had heard, we had gotten information about it, but no proof. So if you've gotten proof this morning, then that's good. It's something that we can work with going forward.
So that's a document that was read to us by the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, Sam George.
That would be very useful to us.
Okay, so this is something that Giba is now going to pursue?
Yes.
What were you told in the beginning?
We've been looking for it for some time now.
But what were you told in the beginning? I mean, since you've been looking for information about this.
It's just snippets of information we've been getting, but concrete proof we don't have. Okay, so it's a matter of, we are sort of left in the dark, and we are looking for answers, and we are asking those answers, to the extent that we wrote a couple of letters to the ministry asking certain questions, and which they are yet to respond to. Okay.
Yesterday we heard also that this contract is tied to a loan facility that Ghana badly, well, perhaps needs. Of course, there are lots of needs to be met by government. Yesterday, I asked you whether you were going to, what was going to be your next line of action as Giba. Has that been thought through already? No?
Well, you know, situations arise, then we put in place strategies to deal with them. So I can assure you that strategies are being thought through every day, yes. But to really come out and give you concrete facts about what is being done, I'm unable to do that right now.
If it's signed, if the document is signed, like Sam George's document proves, what is there for Giba to do, really? What can you do? What do you think are the options available to you?
All the options that we could possibly use. It could be CSO involvement, it could be the legal routes, it could be anything.
Are you happy with the latest information? Is Giba, what's Giba? You represent Giba, so you have several other members. This really, should it be a big deal? They're just providing platforms for only 300 villages. Can that not pass?
It's a big deal because in the first place, what are they doing on the, well, information reaching us is that they are going to be working on the national platform, okay? So under what conditions are they getting access to the national platform? That is a worry because that is the single national terrestrial digital television platform that all broadcasters are going to being placed on. Okay. So if one single entity with interest in broadcasting sort of has the control over it, it poses a threat to all other broadcasters.
Okay.
And because of that, in the beginning, several deliberations were undertaken, and an agreement was arrived at after recommendations and all that it was preferable, it was better, advisable that a single entity identified that had no interest in broadcasting. So it means it's not a broadcaster in the country. That is the entity that should control and manage the platform.
So your issue is is because the company is not local?
No, it isn't because the company is not local. When Star Times came in at first, they were not in the broadcasting space. We can say for a fact that for the past 2 years, Star Times has been broadcasting in Ghana. So now, in effect, it makes them a broadcaster. Okay. And one of the terms of the tender document that was put out that qualified people, like tenderers, was that they should not be broadcasters. Okay. So if Star Times, a broadcaster now, is coming in to whether work on the platform, control it, manage it, it's not fair to the other broadcasters who were prevented from putting in their bids for the tender.
Okay. You did have what looked like what's available already in the system. And I think that the point has already been made. I think at this point, a lot of people will be interested to find out what Giba wants to do going forward? Because from all the discussions that we've had so far, it looks like it's a done deal we're dealing with here. So you've said that, well, there are options, civil society organizations, there's a legal route. We wait to hear from Giba as to what steps are being taken.
We'll definitely keep you informed.
But I certainly wanted to go through. Do you think that it will help our viewers if we went through this? Will they understand it? You know, just by you talking about it, you think?
Okay.
What is this, by the way?
It's the various authorizations granted by the National Communications Authority.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the National Communications Authority has authorizations for free-to-air television. That is, the contents are absolutely free. Nobody has to pay for them. It has authorizations for digital, terrestrial, pay TV. Okay. It has authorizations for regional TV.
Okay.
It's got authorizations for satellite providers.
Okay.
Okay. So
this is basically it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's so we just have some documents, and I'm just trying to see if we can share the content of the documents.
Analog terrestrial television, then digital terrestrial free-to-air television channels, then digital terrestrial free-to-air programs, then digital terrestrial pay television. That's the service and the frequency only, or else the service only. Then we have the network only for the digital terrestrial television. Then we have the digital terrestrial radio service on the multiplex.
Okay, but what I wanted to get is that, so basically this confirms all that KNET has been saying, what you have here.
Yes.
It shows which region has what, and which region is not ready for the project, if you like, for digital TV.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see if we can run through them quickly. So this is Accra. We have GBC here.
Okay, so this is the list for the regional TVs.
Okay.
In Accra, and we have GBC. That's the Bonu TV.
Okay.
We have OTV Broadcasting Limited. That's OTV, and these two are in the Greater Accra region alone.
Okay.
Then we have Royal Image Broadcasting, which is Royal TV in the Ashanti region alone. Then for the Volta region, we have the Tony D Company. And then for the northern region, we have the Chefo Multimedia Broadcasting Limited, per the National Communications Authority's list.
Okay. So what it means is that there is still a lot of need in the regions, which is what government is trying to fill with Star Times, which is what you disagree with.
Because the infrastructure, as it is right now, is expandable.
Okay. 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 So basically, that's the argument.
Yeah.
Right?
And in addition, the infrastructure as it stands also is very capable of generating funds.
Okay.
Okay. And then the spectrum that the current broadcasters are on was recently auctioned by the government. So, and they are supposed to migrate from that onto the digital platform. Okay, so that is why the government is selling that. So there's money coming in from the spectrum, and then the infrastructure itself
it's
as well.
Expandable, you say?
It's expandable and can generate funds to cater for itself.
Okay. Like I said, and this is my personal expectation, and I believe that a lot of my viewers are also, our viewers are also expecting that we want to know what Giba wants to do next. As it stands now, it looks like government has taken its position, and as we're getting that information from St. George, it looks like it's already a signed contract. So we wait to see what Giba was to do next.
Sure.
Gloria, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Yaji speaks for the Giba there. We're waiting to find out what they do now that it's emerging. The contract has already been signed. Government said it wasn't as of yesterday.